What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Underdog podcast, episode number 2. I'm here with Fan Control Football League running back Berkley Edwards, and today I'm just going to be asking him some questions. How you doing, man?
Everything's good. How you been?
I've been good, man. So I just want to first start off and ask you about your high school. You attended to Chelsea High School. You're coached by Jeremy Barkey. Is that correct?
It was actually Brad Bush.
Okay. So you rushed for 1,329 yards and scored 21 touchdowns as a senior.
hmm
And in you scored 1,584 yards and tailed 18 touchdowns. Can you just tell me a little bit about how your experience in high school with the coaching and the players?
Yeah. So high school. When I went to high school, I went in. I didn't really know what to expect. New offense, a whole new town. It was a whole new bunch of faces. I only knew, I think, two. I think a couple people at the school at the time that I previous before getting there. Um, I didn't live out there. A lot of people think I lived out there, but I drove out there every day. Um, so it was like I said, it was just a bunch of new faces. New system. Didn't, and the thing was, they wanted me to play varsity my freshman year. It's because I was real fast. Uh, just going in, I always ran track, but I wasn't learning the plays. I was messing around, wasn't really learning the plays, learning the system. So they bumped me down to JV, and we ran the wing T. So you got a running back in the back, like a primary guy, and then you have two wing guys that can either run the ball or can play receiver. They can run routes as well. And they wanted me to play the wing guy because the guy that they had in front of me at the tailback was by the name of Nick Hill. He ended up going to Michigan State to play. He was, crazy in high school.
Mhm.
Uh, and so it was like, okay, well, you're good enough to play on varsity. You just got to play one of the wing guys. But like I said, I wasn't really learning the system. So they bumped me down to JV, and I ended up playing that back guy instead of one of the wings. I ended up playing the tailback. And freshman years again, learning the system, getting it down. Had a pretty good year. And then after that, my freshman year, they moved me up to varsity. And then I didn't play the wing. I still played that tailback position, but I ended up splitting it with a senior. So we ended up splitting time. Sophomore year, still again learning myself, learning the system. And then my junior year is when it was pretty much my show. I didn't split time with anybody. I got most of the carries. So my junior and senior year, I'm not gonna lie to you, I probably was averaging 30 carries a game. Yeah, they gave me a bulk of the load. Um, and so as I, coming up through, I mean, even to, just when I finished up in college, I had to learn how to play football. I was really a track guy playing football. Um, and so I had to learn how to play the position as a running back and actually be a football player, learn how to make people miss, set guys up and everything. So I think my, high school, to sum it up, my high school career was, it was pretty good, it was pretty successful, right? It got me into college. Um, but again, I still was learning how to be, a football player.
Mhm. Well, you mentioned track and all that. Did you have any expectations of making a career out of that, or
At track?
yeah, like
Yeah. So track was my first love. Um, and that's actually what I started with. And I started competing at 6, and went all the way up into, they got AAU for track. So I did all the way from 6 all the way up to 18. Um, and then ended up running in college too. So, as far as going after high school, I knew I could run in college, but it wasn't going to be my sole sport.
mhm.
For me, it was just, I'm going to run in college as well as play football because I knew how much track could help. They always say speed kills, right? So I knew how much track could help my football out. So wherever I was going to commit to, which was the University of Minnesota, I had told the coach, I said, look, if I come here, I have to be able to run. You got to let me run track. Like, this is just what needs to happen. So I ended up running track and playing football and running track in college. I did get a couple. lower tier offers for track, but everybody knew I was going to play football. So, people really weren't going to waste their time having me, run track.
Well, you in high school you earned first team All State honors as a senior, and you
Mhm.
or prospect, and then you committed to the so I pull this up. You committed to the University of Minnesota, and in your first year there, that's when you had your best season, for 140 yards and two touchdowns. Can you tell us a little bit about like your experience there?
Yeah. So Minnesota was again still learning how to be a football player and be a running back. So we had guys there that could actually, that could play. The guy that I was behind at the time, that was starting, was the number 6 running back in the nation. It was David Cobb. So, he was nice, and I was able to take some things. I mean, not just him, every running back in the room. I mean, we had a pretty crazy room, full of guys that was real talented. And for me, because I was learning, I was able to take some things from each of those guys. As I was coming in when I was young, I was able to take, bits and pieces from different guys' game and add them to mine. So, going in there, they wanted me to. So my freshman year, my true freshman year, they wanted me to play. I ended up getting hurt. I think like a week before the game, a guy landed on my leg and almost broke my leg. We weren't even tackling. So they held me out for 6 games, and they were going to put me in, but they said, we won't do that to you. We'll just redshirt you. So redshirt freshman year, um, got to play. They were using me kind of more as a gadget guy.
Yeah.
So the guys, like the Christian McCaffreys now in the league and all that type of stuff, they were somewhat using me like that. I don't think they really understood how to do that, because I don't think they didn't really have a guy, like me before, as fast as I was and everything. So they were trying to work it into their offense. But yeah, so that freshman year was just again learning, being able to actually play on the college level,
Mhm.
having some success. So for me, it was again still a learning experience, but also being able to display some of my talents.
So you transferred after 2 seasons there. You transferred to Central Michigan. Is this correct?
Yeah.
What was it like translating to a new college and like a new
Um,
offense?
so I guess for me, I would have compared it to me transitioning to middle school to high school,
Mm.
because it's a complete different atmosphere for me from middle school to high school. So I I would say I already had an experience doing it. It was just at a new level.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, because it was a school in Michigan, a lot of the guys stay in state and commit to in-state school. So there was a few familiar faces, when I got there, that guys that I knew from high school. So that made the transition easier. And the reason I had ended up leaving Minnesota was because our head coach was having, he was getting sick and having seizures on the field. So after he went down, things started to break down, and then PJ Fleck came in and everything like that. But so transferring to Minnesota, like I said, there were a lot of familiar faces, some people that I didn't know. But for me, it was just an easy transition, right? I just came in, was handling business. I came in like, yo, this is what I'm here to do. Continue to get better, but also, get some playing time as well. So, and the coach, the coaches like me too as well. And I had an offer from them out of high school. It wasn't the same exact coaching staff, but it made the transition easier.
Yes. And so after that, you transferred to Michigan.
Hmm.
You had a few carries there, and then after you left all the college scene, what was your like expectations after that? Like after college?
Well, so for me, I was like, okay, cool. Got a little bit of playing time in college, but for me, I was like, okay, if I can get on an NFL roster or something, or get in a training camp, I know I'll be able to prove myself and to get into the league.
Mhm.
Uh, the year that I came out, didn't have too much success getting into. I didn't have any success getting into a college. I mean, not a college, but a pro tryout. But then 2020 came, and I was getting. There was a couple teams interested, and they were saying, "Hey, we want to bring you into camp." But then the pandemic happened. That's when COVID first started, and so at that time, it was messed up all over the map. College colleges was messed up, and then NFL they weren't really bringing new guys in unless they drafted you. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
with the agency scene, they were kind of just rotating with guys that were already in the league or already had a
Mhm.
shot in the league, or you know what I'm saying, was playing in the league. So that made it hard. It was a lot of guys that missed out, and I remember talking to a few people as well, scouts and guys that that interview those type of players, and it was like, yeah, there's also a lot of similar situations as yours where a lot of people weren't getting, invites into camps that were on the outside of the league that hadn't been in the league before. So I was like, man, this is crazy. Can't get into it, or finally get a shot to be able to get into some camps, and then couldn't get in because of COVID. So
Yeah.
um, after that, uh, which I'm sure you're probably going to transition to with the FCF. Um, I had did a couple camps where some scouts was there and everything, and where Coach Jenkins was there. He was there at one of the trials that I was at, or the combines that I was at, and he remembered me, and I get a call from a Texas number one day, and I usually don't answer numbers that I don't have saved, but I ended up answering it, and then he was saying, "Hey, do you remember me?" This and that. He said, "Well, there's a new league starting up, called the Fan Control Football. It's a little different from just regular football, but it's an indoor league, indoor 7-on-7, tackle league, whatever, whatever." And then he said, "Hey, look, we only have one more tryout, and it's in Houston. And this was 2 weeks before." He said, "Can you fly down and go to the tryout?" I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I can. Why not? So that ended up happening, and then yeah, went through, and then I ended up making the league. I did good at the trial. He liked me a lot, and then ended up making it to the FCA.
Mhm. And with that, like, what's your like experience like in the league right now? Like obviously like you're dominating in there. Like just like what's your experience like in the fan control football league, like with the players and with the just the whole like coaching and everything?
Yeah, yeah. So we actually there was a couple coaches that left it, but there were a couple coaches that that had a good resume. Um,
Mm.
Running back coach, he coached the Lions.
Yeah.
Uh, he had a good resume. I think, did he coach Barry? I think he may have coached Barry Sanders. So you got coaches there that got a good history and have a good resume. As far as the players, you got there was some good players there.
Yeah.
Uh, like Kavontae Turpin, who's now, I think somebody just told me he just signed a contract with the Cowboys.
Yeah, he had a couple good preseason games though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he was in the USFL and then worked his way up. I think Andrew Jamil, did he have a workout with the Patriots?
Yes,
I
sir.
think, yeah, he had a workout with the Patriots. Um, and there's a few other players too that got to play in the spring league. Um, and then I also seen there, some guys again with the USFL. I think the XFL coming up. Some guys are going to be in there. You got guys in the Canadian league. Guys go overseas. So it was good competition. So the FCF wasn't just this new league where a bunch of random players. You actually had guys that had a name in college and now is playing on going on to bigger and better things than the FCF.
So couple last questions here for you. What can you do to make your way up to being in like a more of a like pro league and just making your way to the NFL?
Yeah. So. Um, there's a lot of things that have to go right that I didn't really realize, but a lot of things, and almost you get a lot of people to say you almost have to be lucky, right? Because that's how hard it is to be able to make it to that, to make it to those leagues. I actually just seen a video of Chad Johnson, and I actually forgot this because he played in the Canadian League, and
Yeah.
I just seen a video of him saying, the guys that were even in the Canadian League was going, he said these guys can play at the NFL. Like they can play at the NFL level. He said, it's just a lot of things got to go right. It has to be timing. And there's only so many spots in the NFL, right? There's only so many spots, but you got guys that can play that are at different levels. So I think what it is in a system where you just got to work your way up.
Mhm.
You got to work your way up if you're not already in the league. So, getting one of these leagues, again, we just seen guys go from the FCF to the NFL, right? And this league just started, so work your way up. Whether it's if you're starting in the FCF, then you go to the IFL, the Indoor Football League, or FCF to Canadian League, or however however you can get there. But you have to start somewhere. Start somewhere, and then learn to make your way up and continue to grind. It's never, this stuff never happens over, it was a short time, and never a one year process. Anything, this stuff happens over time. Just with anything that you want to be great at, things take time. So I would say, and so you have to be patient, and just enjoy the process and grind.
And kind of final question here, what can you tell like the younger generation about like football and just like grinding to the top?
Yeah. So just going off what I just said, things take time. Be a sponge. And now there's so much more information on the internet, and you have easy access to than you ever had before. So even if you don't have the people around you or access to coaches or guys that have been there before, you can go, pull up your phone and do a Google search or a YouTube search, or just go on Instagram and pull up these guys that are posting their workouts, and you can kind of mimic some of the stuff they do. So be a sponge, be able to learn. And again, like I said, just enjoy the grind. No, it's not going to happen overnight, but continue to put the work in, and consistency of doing the right things will, you'll yield the results that you want.
Well, everybody, this will conclude this episode of the Underdog podcast. Once again, here with Berkley Edwards, and thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate you for having me. Hopefully this message gets out to some people and it can help them.
And I will see you guys in the next one.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Yep. See you.